Good evening. This is Eugene Chen on Straight Talk. Our guest this evening is Dr. Kennedy Wong, Hong Kong Deputy to the National People's Congress. Dr. Wong is also a member of both the Legislative Council and the Election Committee. He is a lawyer by profession and is the president of the China Law Society's Hong Kong Council Members Association. This evening, we are going to talk about the implications of the two sessions in Beijing for Hong Kong people. Welcome, Kennedy.
Thank you, Eugene.
Kennedy, we must congratulate you on your successful recent election to be the Hong Kong Deputy of the National People's Congress.
Yes, thank you.
And I believe you have also just returned from Beijing, attending the two sessions, and this must be your fifth time attending the two sessions, previously as a CPPCC member, but the first time as the NPC deputy
yes,
this time.
Indeed.
Yeah, I hesitated because not very often people of your age have already been there for 20 years. So it has been a great achievement. So how is it different that you're attending as a deputy of the NPC as compared to a CPPCC member?
Thank you, Eugene. I think under our Chinese constitution, the NPC, which is our National People's Congress, has the power to legislate, has the power to elect very senior state officials, and we have actually also power to make proposals to ministries. So, and also, there are more NPC members than CPPCC members. As far as I remember, there are 2977 NPC delegates.
Right. Close to 3,000.
Yeah, and then for CPPCC members, there are about 2,200.
Right.
Hong Kong SAR has 36 delegates to the National People's Congress, and I am one of them. I'm very honored. Also understand that there's a lot of hard work, and throughout my 10 days in Beijing, for the NPC, actually we worked day and night, I'll assure you. Also, there's no weekend, no break.
Right,
and attendance rate actually has been very high, for everybody. I remember one statistics of 2977 delegates when, it came to sort of voting for our president, say, 2952 delegates voted.
Oh, very high election
rate.
Yeah,
it's a very high attendance rate as well as very high rate of election, for such a senior body in China.
Right, Kennedy, you were there for the previous term, especially when COVID was around. I mean, how is it different this time? I mean, you told me that you still have to attend the CPPCC meeting in the last term in Beijing, but you have to be attending earlier, to be isolated, and test every day. And is the same practice still pursued in this session?
Well, this time, for the safety of everybody, we had PCR tests almost on a daily basis. And I think, fortunately, as far as I understand, no delegate from Hong Kong caught COVID or actually influenza, etc. And that is why I think for the safety of all the delegates and to ensure that the two sessions run smoothly, I would say that the PCR tests on a daily basis was necessary.
Right. Do you still have to wear a mask during meetings?
Well, I think you probably have seen some extracts on TV. The delegates, we had to wear a mask during, the full session. But, for the small group sessions, there was a bit of leeway.
Right.
Yeah.
I see. I mean, since you mentioned television, we can, as viewers from Hong Kong, we only watch what's happening on the television and all those images. What actually happens during the 10 days you mentioned in Beijing? I mean, you can't possibly be at the hall for 10 days. Can you get some behind-the-scenes shots for the viewers? What exactly do you do? What time do you start, and where do you eat, etc., etc.?
Yeah. Normally, our day starts at 9 a.m. And the morning session would end by 11:30. The afternoon session would start at 3 p.m. and ends before 5:30. As far as I remember, throughout those 10 days, we went to the Great Hall of the People about 5 times. 3 times would be for election. of various senior officials, including our president, vice president, premier, vice premier, ministers, and also People's Bank of China's head, and so on.
So what other, do you still have to work at your
Yes.
sort of extended lunchtime and after work? Do you have anything in particular to do?
Well, actually, there's a lot of reading to do, Eugene, because we were given a lot of papers. For example, the government work report, and also the all the figures, all the income and expenditure of our government for the past year, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of reading, and also those documents, cannot be sort of taken out of our sort of compound. So basically, it's a lot of reading, and then we need to also form subgroups. The Hong Kong delegation, we only have 36 delegates, so we are a subgroup ourselves. And almost every day, we have to gather to discuss. And for some of these subgroup meetings, we have ministers. We have representatives from different ministries and commissions also attending, so they will listen to our view. And actually, one area that I find, NPC is really quite different from CPPCC is really the speed of response from these ministries. Before, NPC sort of closes, I already received 3 written responses, from the PBOC, the People's Bank of China, from our Supreme Court, and also the state prosecutor, all on my proposals and suggestions, and on my comments during these subgroup meetings. So they're very responsive.
Right, which is very different to what your past experiences are.
Normally, for CPPCC motions, we would of course get a reply, but that would be probably some months later.
Right. Another rumor said, we sort of read in the newspaper, that all the deputies are confined to the hotel for the 10 days. I mean, is that true?
It's a kind of closed loop arrangement. So it's true that we were advised not to go out.
Is it, is it more for the purpose for the COVID measure, or more or less they want you to be?
I think it's both for COVID, and because Beijing during those days also had influenza A, spreading quite rapidly. So we all agreed that we should concentrate.
Right. You have already mentioned some of the roles and jobs that the NPC will do. I mean, you're also being a legislator in the Hong Kong Legislative Council. They're both sort of law informing parties. I mean, how do you compare the Legislative Council to NPC? Of course, I mean, they are of different level, but of course, in terms of work-wise, how would you compare them?
Well, I think one term of the NPC lasts for 5 years. In Hong Kong, our Legislative Council runs for 4 years, and then we have to run for re-election. And for NPC, because we look at the whole country, 1.4 billion people, so I think perspective is a lot wider. And also we need to think from a lot more different angle. Really, we have briefing on what's happening globally and also domestically. So we get to read a lot of papers, and then I would say that it has really deepened my understanding of the whole country.
Right, Kennedy, you also mentioned earlier that we have 36 deputies, and I know out of the 36, we have 12 of them are actually legislative councillors.
Yes.
So do you see them there, will the interests be aligned, or will they be compatible?
Well, I think so, because these days already there's a consensus that NPC and CPPCC sessions, when we're ongoing for the 2 weeks, then there would be no council meeting of our legislature here in Hong Kong, but there would probably be some panel meetings. I think it's quite important for Hong Kong, including Hong Kong legislators, to understand what's happening, in the whole of China. So Hong Kong really depends very much on how well the whole country does.
Right.
If China develops well, Hong Kong will certainly benefit. So I think the economic integration is undergoing, And also the GBA presents a lot of opportunities for Hong Kong.
Right, Kennedy, when you become a deputy to the NPC, I mean, you have to run through an election, and you do have your election pledges. I'm going to ask you in public, how are you going to fulfill your pledges to your constituents?
Well, I think I listed out 4 main areas, which one is national security. I think that has been handled quite well by our current administration. And then the second area is how much more Hong Kong can do to help with peaceful unification with Taiwan. And also the third area is the rule of law, because I'm a lawyer myself. And then the fourth area is digital economy. How well Hong Kong can further sort of integrate with say digital China. I think both in Legislative Council here in Hong Kong and also when I was in Beijing, I've been pushing on all fronts. So I think I'm gradually moving towards fulfilling
Right.
my election promises, but I have 5 years to go.
Right.
So you can tell me how well I've done.
Yeah, we'll certainly be having a check on you. So let's go to a break now, and we will do stay with us. We will be right back. Welcome back. We have been talking with Dr. Kennedy Wong and his personal experience at the recent Two Sessions in Beijing. Now that we know a little bit more about how it works, let's go on and talk about the key points that were decided on and their effect on Hong Kong people. So Kennedy, in the first half, thank you for giving us a sort of a glimpse of what's behind the scene, that you guys have to work very hard for the 10 days and you're basically confined to the hotel and doing a lot of homework for Hong Kong and for the country as well. One point that we often read in the newspapers, especially from the Western media, is that we call them critics, say that the NPC is just a rubber stamp organization, that it has no real debate on policy and legislations. And now you've actually been attended as a deputy. How will you rebut them?
Well, I think first of all, in the election process, no one has asked us to vote for whoever. So it's entirely our own free will, and it's secret. So basically, we can fill our ballot, in a certain sort of booth. And also, I think I've just told you, during our group discussions, many representatives from different ministries attended, and actually they took our view and proposals very seriously, and they actually responded very promptly. So I think, under our Chinese Constitution, the NPC has power to supervise, state organs. Also, we have the power to elect and decide on the state's senior officials, and we have the power to legislate. So these are all clearly stated out in the Chinese Constitution. So that's my answer.
Right. So Kennedy, earlier in the first part of the show, you mentioned there are 2,977 deputies to the NPC, far more than the CPPCC, and we have 36 delegates from Hong Kong. That represents, as worked out, just over 1%. So how much can the Hong Kong knowledge or expertise being able to contribute to the national development, and vice versa? How much are we being treasured from your point of view?
Well, I think, since our return to the motherland, Hong Kong has always had 36 delegates. And I would say that, as a percentage of our population, we are sort of overrepresented in NPC, because there are 1.4 billion Chinese, and only just slightly less than 3,000 delegates. So about 450,000 on average in the mainland people would elect one NPC deputy. So, for Hong Kong, the percentage is higher. So it actually shows that our state values Hong Kong very much. And I think many of our fellow Hong Kong deputies to the NPC, they are from business, professional, and various backgrounds. They understand Hong Kong, and we have all worked very hard, and I think on average we have submitted 5 proposals each, to ministries at the highest level. So far, the responses are very positive, and quite a number of our proposals have been accepted. In particular, I submitted 4 proposals myself. 3 are related to how better Hong Kong can integrate into the GBA, Greater Bay Area. So I think they have been quite seriously looked at.
So Kennedy, let's move on to what actually that was discussed and direction that was sort of confirmed in these 2 sessions. I read that there was a reform of the state government.
Yes.
Which you can tell us about that. And also there was the important election of presidency as his 3rd term of his president, and also other positions as well. So our nation has undergone very challenging times, both internationally and also domestically. So can you summarize what the NPC has achieved over the last 12 months, and what are your views of NPC going ahead?
I think during the 2 sessions, I think the most important, I would say, work that the NPC has completed, of course, is electing the next term of government, including our next president, vice president, chairman of the Central Military Commission, etc. But I think you also mentioned that we also approved the State Council's reform. The reform covered a number of important areas. I remember that it covers technology, it covers intellectual property rights, it covers the creation of a bureau on big data, and it also has created a bureau to look after the elderlies. So I think these are all very important areas that our central government considers really important for the next term of government. And I miss one important area, which is the creation of a sort of wider financial regulatory commission. And also has expanded the China Securities Regulatory Commission so that it also covers the issuance of bonds. I think when our country develops, technology is very important, and in order for the technology sector to sort of move forward, protecting intellectual property rights is very, very important. And then financial risk, as we can see, it's globally, it's a major risk that every government is facing. So strengthening financial control at the highest level, and then in order to develop our country's digital economy, and which I think Hong Kong should really ride on this high-speed rail, is the creation of this Big Data Bureau. So I think big data is a huge piece of asset, that our government as well as business sector should really more utilize.
Right. Kenny, thank you for just giving a very quick outline of what happened in the last 10 days of solid meetings in Beijing. And one comment I picked up was the presidency said that the Hong Kong's prosperity is inseparable from our country's national development. That can only be a good thing for Hong Kong, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. I think, in the Premier's government work report, as well as, many sort of ministers' kind of speeches here and there, everybody regarded Hong Kong as a very important SAR of the whole country. I think in particular, one country, 2 systems, has to advance further, and Hong Kong has to maintain our uniqueness, as a very international city in the whole of China. So I think in order for Hong Kong to prosper, I think we need to understand our state policy. We need to integrate economically, and we also need to utilize, the 2 systems advantage.
Right, Kennedy, I'm going to ask you even more direct questions relating for our viewers in Hong Kong. I mean, you just said earlier there was a restructuring of the China State Council that was approved, and there was also including an establishment of a dedicated bodies under the party Central Committee to oversee the affairs of Hong Kong and Macau, and that means the Hong Kong Macau's Affairs Office now report directly to the central leadership. Could this affect people's perception, the high degree of autonomy that we have, in your view?
Well, I think under the Chinese Constitution, Hong Kong is a special administrative region. And we understand that the central government would love Hong Kong to maintain its one country, two system status. So I think, Beijing loves Hong Kong, and that's my conclusion. So I think whatever the central government does, I think we also need to look at it from the whole country's point of view. But I think Hong Kong, we will be able to maintain our status as an international financial center, because we are already an international financial center, and we have a common law legal system, and then we are going to serve not just the whole of China, but the world.
Right.
So I think that is one of our strengths. And also, if we need to be more creative and then advance on various technology front, we need to work more hand in hand with, say, Shenzhen and other parts of the Greater Bay Area.
So. Kennedy, with this now directly under the Central Party leadership, I mean, even CE said that this has paved the way for better collaboration. So have we had a problem in the past? That's the reason why we do it now.
Well, I think there are still many areas that would require G to G sort of meetings and also dialogue. Sort of G to G, meaning not just the central government, but provincial governments. So I think our chief executive and his ministers have set a very good example. They spent more time in Beijing, and they met with ministries. I think in future, Hong Kong would need, to understand what our neighbors, our neighboring provinces, what they are actually doing, and also what our central government would like our country to advance, and then grasp the opportunities therein. I think, Beijing wants us to be successful, but we also need to understand where we're heading.
A quick answer for you. With growing the geopolitical stress of the West and the mainland, Hong Kong being having one country, two systems, do you think we'll ride through the storm?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, Hong Kong is as open as before. We still have the common law legal system. We are protecting everybody's investments here, and we also welcome all people from all over the world to come and work here and play here.
Right. We'd like to thank Kennedy for sharing his experience at the National People's Congress. As CE Mr. John Lee has said, we need to pay more attention to the two sessions, as many opportunities have been created on the mainland that Hong Kong people and businesses can take advantage of. Have a good week and good night.